G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, my guest is the extremely talented Chris Elder. Chris is a videographer and a director. He's worked with some of Australia's biggest metal bands, including Thy Art Is Murder, Northlane, The Amity Affliction. He's also worked with some of Australia's leading pop acts, including Jessica Mauboy, Delta Goodrem, Guy Sebastian, Peking Duck. The list goes on and on. He also very recently worked with a huge recording artist from the UK. You'll all know who it is, but you better check out the podcast to find out. I've known Chris for a number of years now, and he's always been kind, generous of spirit, and even at times humble. But make no mistake, Chris is an absolute weapon behind the camera and one of Australia's finest. I got a lot out of our conversation, and I hope you do too. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. But for now, please enjoy episode 9 of Picking Bones with Hugh L. Jones.
You know, you've outdone me on equipment. I feel like I've only got one of these lights, so you're doubling my equipment.
Oh, it was your recommendation, actually.
Yeah, they're fun. They're nice for a space like this.
It's fantastic. I love them.
God damn, your voice sounds good in these
Oh,
things.
stop it.
Sultry.
Chris Elder.
Hello, baby. How are you?
Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, people might not know, but you were part of the beta testing.
The OG.
The OG. You came and helped me set up the lights, and we even did a little podcast that, didn't quite work out as planned. So I'm so glad you could come back and do this again.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'd love to know off air the goss as to what happened there, but that's all right.
We'll talk about it off air. It had nothing to do with you. You were a perfect guest.
I had a few too many tequilas, I think, though, from memory. So maybe it was a little bit me, but that's okay.
I promise you, I was a less than perfect podcaster. I was still learning. I was still figuring out a few of the technical issues, which, they even still pop up now. But I think I've kind of figured it out a little better.
Yeah, man. Look, it's looking great. I mean, the ones that you've done so far are awesome. So keen to be a part of it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So, for anybody who doesn't know, Chris is an amazing videographer, photographer, artist in general.
Dude.
Great dude. Great dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Cheers.
Let's cheers to that.
Oh,
Here's to being a great dude.
Here's to being dudes. Thanks, man.
So the last time you were here and the last time we spoke, let's just get this right out of the way. You had just embarked on a very, I would say, groundbreaking career move, which was doing a music video for one of the biggest recording artists of our time.
Yeah, not a small feat.
Not a small artist,
yeah,
Mr. Ed Sheeran.
Pretty wild, hey?
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very blessed to be given that opportunity. It was, just to get it out there. It was part of a competition. They didn't headhunt me and come down and say, hey, we love your work. But I think that might have been part of it. I definitely had to send my work across and got the tick of approval. So, yeah, wild ride.
So what did, when you actually sent through your list of accomplishments and some examples of your work, what did you send them? Because your work is so varied. I mean, you've gone from, doing a video clip for Thy Art Is Murder on one end of the spectrum, and then I know you've also worked with, Guy Sebastian and Delta Goodrem and a whole bunch of other Sony artists, Jessica Mauboy.
Yeah.
This is a very broad musical spectrum here. So do you send someone like Ed Sheeran's people a Thy Art Is Murder video clip?
Yeah, I just sent them my Vimeo, which has the full spectrum on there. So they just kind of would have flicked through, and I don't know how many seconds they sat on the Thy Art Is Murder videos, but yeah, that was definitely a part of it.
That was part of it? That's cool.
Yeah. They would have seen those for sure, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, it's kind of interesting though. I think that's the great thing about filmmaking is it's a sort of universal format that you can apply to any genre or subject matter. It's kind of just a language of storytelling, really. So, if people can interpret or appreciate a story that's told by Thy Art Is Murder, I think that's pretty great. I mean, yeah,
100%. And I think if you were looking for a videographer to do something for you, you look for the technique so much, not necessarily the story that's in camera. especially if it's darker and heavier, and that's not maybe what you're going for.
Yeah, well, actually, funnily enough, one of the videos on the Vimeo was actually with Fender for Mayor. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the pop artist in Sydney, and they actually looked at the back catalog and said, we love that you're doing metal videos, and we want something that's a little bit heavier. So even if, it's appealing to a pop artist at sometimes, like even if it's not their sort of standard genre that they work within. So yeah.
Sure, if they want, well, then also like kind of being fully aware of the range that you have.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's like the same as, jazz musicians, drummers, or even metal drummers. Sometimes you'll see them busting out in something that's just showcasing their skill set. It may not necessarily be metal, but it's musicianship, I think, is a really good example of how a skill set can be applied to different areas as well. So
absolutely. And what do you prefer? I actually was thinking about this before, because you have such a variety of people you've worked with. What do you get most excited about when you get asked to do a new job? Is it something that's do you gravitate towards heavier, darker stuff? Do you like kind of doing stuff that's like happy and light? And where do you kind of lean?
That's a good question. I would say that it really comes down to the whole working relationship, really. I think the beauty of why I've worked in music videos for so long is just because it's that amazing collaboration you get to have with another artist, and it's that relationship you have with them. So I wouldn't necessarily say darker is my style, even though my background is metal. I was in a metal band many years ago. I've had some of the best working relationships with, the people in the pop industry or whatever. It's just been that process for me is the most important thing.
The process and potentially the challenge of whatever it might be. I mean, it's every new project is a new challenge.
100%, yeah.
And getting the artist's vision across the line, which is basically your job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is something that I love coming up with the ideas for projects, but at the same time, I mean, the person that knows the artist best is usually the artist. So I like to kind of ask them about themselves and, feed a lot of the inspiration for the music videos or the video projects from who they are as a person, as an artist themselves. So yeah, sometimes you can go down the path of creating something that's completely separate from it and create its own individual art piece. And I think that has a lot of merit as well. But I love that collaborative process of working with the artist and finding out who they are. And at least that way I feel like I've done justice to their style or who they are as a person.
100%. Look, I was thinking about this as well the other day. Have you ever done any film and television, or is music videos has been the main focus of your career so far?
It's a good question. Yeah. I've never worked in what we would call long form, which is longer formats. So you've got sort of TV shows or film, like feature films. I'd say my work lives predominantly in short form. So, commercial branded content, just general sort of content that would be under 5 minutes. We've done pieces up to about 10, 15 minutes, I think is probably the longest. But yeah, I've never done feature films. I've never done TV shows.
Is that something that interests you?
Not really, eh? Wow. Yeah. Cool. So a lot of people, like when they get into the industry, like, yeah, I really want to be making films. Yeah, I want to be in the feature film world and that. And for me, I think I get bored far too easily, or I maybe lose interest in things if it just feels like it's dragging out for so long. And I love the fast-paced nature of shorter projects.
You like to have a new project on the horizon.
Yeah, or multiple, It's nice to kind of just, sometimes I would love to have a break, and so I can just pull myself away from one and then move into another and kind of come back and forth. And I think that just keeps me energized. I love that sort of fast-paced nature. So feature films, I think there's a level of quality, a standard that I couldn't achieve in short form. So I think I'm missing out a little bit there. But at the same time, I'm happy in the short form world, I'm not stuck on a project for 3 years. I can take a holiday, 2 weeks after finishing one, you know what I mean?
And your body of work is more varied as well, because you've got
Totally.
You've got more projects in a smaller amount of time.
100%, yeah.
How many projects do you have on the go at any one time?
Lately, I've been trying to minimize that because I like being able to sort of really focus and give credit to a particular project. Sometimes, I've had up to like 5 or 6, I know people that have done more than that, but I think once you start getting up to those numbers, it's you're spreading yourself too thin. You're not really doing the project justice, and like that comes out in the end product because you're just not able to apply yourself at a deeper level. So yeah, so for me, I'd say 2 to 3 is good. Once it starts going beyond that, I've found that I spread myself a little bit too thin. So.
And do you have a mixture of, say, big record label artists versus like local bands? Do you kind of try to keep that sort of dynamic varied as well? Yeah,
actually, funnily enough, and I know that Chrissy, a producer that I work with quite closely, Hugh, she runs Dreamscape Creative Agency. She was actually on the Ed Sheeran project, and the day that I found out that I won the opportunity to do that video, we were going into a studio to record behind the scenes of a guy that was in like high school, like a kid, an artist, just recording their material like for the first time, really. And so that caliber difference, I guess, in experience, you got Ed Sheeran on one hand, and then you've got this guy that's coming out of the studio for the first time. And I think that's healthy. I think that's really, really important, because not only is it you're sort of working with people of different skill sets, but at the same time you're feeding the next generation of artists as well. And I think you learn a lot about life when you have that difference, that point of difference. And some people just live at the top all the time, but I like the idea of sort of working with people in different skill sets. I think it's nice. It's refreshing, because you're brought to, especially when you're getting older like myself, like you don't really understand younger generations as much. So
dude, tell me about it. Oh my God. I keep catching myself saying things that I thought I would never, ever say.
Back in your day?
Back in my day is one of them. The kids these days.
Oh, it's the best.
When I shake my fist at a cloud, old man yells at cloud. Yeah. Man, but
you got to lean into it though. You have to.
I suppose you just have to be realistic about it. It's like or
you can be dramatic and just be like, and just really push it, really, really push it.
And to be fair, I mean, I'm 36, and I think you're of a similar age.
You're a spring chicken, bro. Yeah, I'm 37, mate. That extra year makes a difference, man.
Well, it's just not 18. That's the difference. I go to, sometimes I'm in a bar or even a live music venue, and you see someone who's clearly just 18 or very close to it, and you go, I just think, where are your parents? How are you allowed out this late? Is that a beer in your hand?
Does dad spec kick in? Like, do you start sort of
I think it's a little
trying
bit
to be protective,
concerned, wondering why they're not studying, killing brain cells with alcohol and late nights? No, I mean,
they've got time. They've got time, man.
And we were all 18 in bars.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
But then there would have been someone who was in their kind of mid to late 30s looking at us going, oh, these fucking kids.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think is the most embarrassing thing looking back now on 18-year-old version of yourself?
Oh my God, how much time do we have? I'm trying to keep this podcast under an hour, bro. I think, luckily, I never really got too publicly intoxicated too often that I can remember.
Lucky you.
In terms of like getting into fights or throwing up or getting kicked out by security. I mean, like there was maybe some smaller versions of that to some degree.
Have you lived?
No, I have. I don't know. I feel like I was always
You're
somehow
quite
well behaved. I don't know why, because a lot of my friends were not.
Yeah.
Certainly not good influences in that department. Look, probably just getting kicked out, being told to leave venues, and maybe trying to sneak back in, or arguing with a security guard for too long as to why, knowing that it's a futile, not knowing that it's a futile resistance.
Hey, when you walk past bars now and you see people like pretty intoxicated and they're just trying to stay.
Yeah.
Like, that ship sailed many years ago.
Come on, man. Come on, I'm not that drunk. Dude, I just saw you throw up on your friend's shoes. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about you? What's something that's...
I mean, how much time have we got? Dude, it's far too many. I think I was definitely telling a few of those stories last time we were here, but I think they'll be kept in the vault this time around. I'm thankfully no tequila here on the table. So
yeah, well, coffee and soda water this time.
Thank you for the health kick. I really like it. It's nice.
Of course. Well, that's a good segue. You've just been on a massive health kick yourself.
Yeah, we got halfway. For the viewers' benefit, bit of context, I started 75 Hard. It was like after a breakup. So you know how it went. After you have a breakup, you feel like you're the best version of yourself by trying to do all this self-improvement. And 75 hard was definitely a wild ride for the 30 something days I went there.
Now,
So
what
not quite
exactly is
75.
75 hard? What
Okay.
like what's the
I found out about this
rules?
many years ago, and I tried it. I think I've got maybe 3 days in last time, so I thought I'd give it another shot, and I thought I was actually going to succeed this time. But it's basically 75 days of some form of diet. You know, there's no specifics. You can kind of apply your own diet. So some form of diet. Drinking, I think it's something like nearly 4 liters of water a day, which mixed reviews. Some people think that's a bit too much. And then there's no alcohol, no cheat meals, exercising twice a day for 45 minutes. I think that's about it. There might be one other or 2 other things in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But pretty big feat. And for somebody that doesn't exercise and has the worst diet in the world, yeah,
You're looking well. You're looking fit.
yeah, this is probably malnutrition to some extent, but but yeah, I definitely leaned us out a bit for sure. Yeah. I think the biggest wake up call though and what made me stop in the end was I was leaving everything to the last minute, and so I would get home after a long day, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to my exercise, and I ended up just going to sleep at like 5 a.m. half the time because I was wanting so desperately to finish the challenge that I'd push a lot of the things towards the end of the day, and yeah, 5 hours a day of sleep on average for the 30 something days, it crashed.
Well, that's another big part of health, isn't it? It's not just, I mean, like, yeah, of course, diet, exercise, all those things, but sleep is so important.
Yeah. So it was actually funny. My friend, whilst I was doing this 75 hard thing, a friend of mine came in, I told him about how bad I was sleeping, and he said, listen to an audiobook called Why We Sleep. And I think it was the day after I listened to like an hour of it, I just went, oh no, I'm stopping this. And I stopped 75 hard just so I could catch up on sleep and
Wow.
try and get some sleep. Because yeah, it's pretty wild how bad it is for you to get less than 8 hours of sleep a day. It's pretty interesting. So
I find I can function pretty well on about 6. Like that's
you might be one of the small percentage that can, yeah.
But no, well, see, but I have to catch up. So on the weekends, I make sure I catch up. So during the week, I can do about 6 a night. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
But
listen to this audiobook, man. That'll change your mind for sure.
I'm
of these words are all things that are echoed in that, and I just it's worth listening to.
yeah, I'll actually write. What's it called again?
Why We Sleep.
Why We Sleep.
Yeah.
I'll write this down.
Yeah, it's a good one. But I mean, part of that process was amazing. Was I never went for walks, and I was doing 10,000 steps a day, which is great.
Yeah.
I think the water drinking was great as well.
Yep.
My skin was feeling good and like looking good, and but the audiobooks, I don't know. I was never like a guy that would listen to audiobooks, but just having that opportunity to just have a break from everything in life and just it's almost like a double self-improvement because you're exercising, but then you're also learning at the same time.
I was going to say, do you sit still and listen to an audiobook, or do you do it like on the treadmill or
yeah,
something?
like active. So I'd go there's a walk right near my house that I think it was like an hour walk. And so I'd just do that. And every day I'd listen to it. And it was great.
That's great.
It was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and, it's like, there's like Atomic Habits, like all these other different ones. Yeah, it was good. Do you listen to...
I've started to a little bit now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I wouldn't say I'm an avid reader, but I do like to read, especially if it's a subject that I find interesting. But yeah, I recently, actually, funnily enough, I read 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson quite a long time ago, and I listened to his audiobook again sort of recently. And
The same one?
The same one.
What did you get out of... Like, what was the main thing that you got out of that? 'Cause, I mean, other than the 12 rules.
Other than 12. Well, I mean, I just respect Jordan Peterson a lot. I think he's a very intelligent and thoughtful individual who's given me a different perspective on a lot of issues.
He cops a lot of flack in the media.
He
hey?
does.
Yeah.
He's very... Look, there was that whole thing that people accuse him of being anti-trans, and then now he's alt-right, and now he's this. They label him with all these different things, and it's nonsense.
And they try and bundle him in with the whole incel thing. And
there's a really touching moment that he has in an interview. I believe it's actually with Piers Morgan, and whatever your thoughts are on him, I don't know, but I have mixed feelings on the man. But he says Piers Morgan asks him about the incel thing and says, you've been.
And he cries.
He
right?
cries. He gets very emotional.
Yeah, I saw that.
And one thing he says, which is really touching, is he says, I thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice.
Yeah.
He's kind of saying like, so what if I am? It's not been his goal to be the leader of the incels or some inspirational figure, but his point was really valid, which is like, well, if these people are suffering, if these people are lonely, if these people are not functioning members of society, maybe they need help rather than ridicule.
Yeah.
And again, that was just another perfect example of why this guy, I think, is misunderstood widely by a lot of people. But anyway, back to the audiobook thing, just because he narrated it. And I mean, I always, from a conceptual point, much prefer an author to narrate their own thing.
Totally, yeah.
I understand that some people, maybe they're not good speakers, yet they're good writers. Maybe they don't want to, maybe they don't have the time. But it makes a difference if you can hear the words coming from the author.
Well, there's intent behind every word that's written, right?
100%.
Yeah.
But hearing him narrate it, it just clarified his overall message, I think. Which is
effectively self-improvement, but on like micro level in some ways.
It is effectively self-improvement.
Something that I gathered from him was always there was that line where it was like, focus on making your own bed, or focus on improving your own house or things within your own house before worrying about the rest of the world. Which in itself could be interpreted as like a controversial statement, but at the same time, there's definitely merit to that. Like I think it's almost like the idea of if you are on a plane and you're needing to give somebody else oxygen, it's like
help yourself first. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. He's encouraging people to take care of their own worlds. Not literally your room, but maybe sometimes it is your room. He says it can be.
I don't know. I just related to making my own bed because I was a struggle as a kid.
But that's one of the things he does talk about in his book, or in his in a lot of his teachings. Take care of what you can control first, because there are so many people who are very have really good intentions about fixing the world and climate change and social injustices and all this stuff, and that's all well and good. But if you can't, if your life is in a shamble, maybe you're not the person to be fixing the world. And also for your own self-development and self-improvement, you're better off if for example, your bedroom is clean and your bed is made. You're better off. Doesn't mean that's going to fix all your problems. It's not going to fix all the world's problems.
Nice to live in a clean house.
But just one step at a time. And if you can start with that, then you can build on it.
For sure.
And it's solid advice. There's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, I don't want this to this is more about you. I don't want
to. I mean, I'm intrigued. I'm interested. Yeah, I mean, you can talk about this off air, but yeah.
Well, he is controversial, and I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if anybody gives me some flack in the comment section about this. It's so unfortunate that these days you got to be careful with the opinions you share online, because you can then be lumped into a group that probably doesn't even exist.
I think also the hard thing as well is at the end of the day, I mean, education should be at the forefront of anyone's life experience in many ways, but people get educated from different areas. I mean, just because you like one portion of what somebody does doesn't necessarily mean that your entire life is based around what their vision of things are, or even what people's interpretation of their visions are.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it is sad when people cast judgment upon other people just because they've interpreted or appreciated something that somebody has created.
Totally. And I think there is for whatever reason, the very loud minority online that get offended very easily at even potentially the conversation we're having right now, love to put people in boxes. You said this, therefore you belong in this group. You believe this, or you listen to that person, therefore you're X, Y, Z. And that's just nonsense. Like the people are so much more complicated than that. And you can disagree with somebody on a subject and still be friends. You can disagree with somebody on a subject and still respect each other. And the only way to fully understand what you believe or what you think is right is to disagree, have a conversation, and maybe you'll find you have some things in common, or maybe not. But either way, this knee-jerk reaction of putting people in a box, accusing them of being a terrible individual for whatever reason, is really backwards. And I hope that we can somehow pedal that back a little bit and listen a bit more and discuss rather than accuse.
100%. I think the internet as well kind of makes it a lot easier for people to hold these strong opinions without being accountable to them. So
absolutely, keyboard warriors, 100%.
It's like if you're in the presence of another person in real life, I'm sure you'd be a bit more compassionate towards their.
I think it's compassion, but it's also, I think it's also kind of fear to some degree.
Oh, totally.
Because it's much more difficult to look at somebody in the eye and say some wild shit and accuse them of something that they may or may not be, because they're right in front of you.
Yeah.
They're going to respond instantly. You know, it's not a message board. It's not a comment section. You're not on a keyboard and there's no consequences. You have to deal with the consequences instantly. You don't have time to think and write a witty response or fact check something and do some research and then come back. It's like it's got to be in the moment. So you're forced to have this level of respect that we should have for each other at all times.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, online, it kind of that gets ripped away, I think.
Little bit, just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. As a content creator, as a creator for yourself, do you find that this new way of interacting with people affects your life, like cancel culture or keyboard warriors, comment sections? Do you find this kind of seeps into your world at all?
I think it's more just the people that are maybe a bit more in the limelight. Like, I mean, you sort of hear stories of people getting cancelled in the band scene or the music scene. And so, you know, I'm aware of these things happening. Thankfully, I can't imagine that I've done too much bad stuff in my life that I'm sort of going to be subject to that myself. But like, it's more, just more as a witness to seeing these sort of things happening, and maybe even just more of a frustration of I don't know. Like it's external to me, mostly, yeah. So I can't say that I would relate to it so much, but it's more, you know. For instance, I got a friend who's a YouTuber, and I'll love watching his videos, and I'll go through the comments sometimes and just see some of the heinous stuff in there, and I'm like, man, this is so heartbreaking to see, and especially when you know how much your friends are putting into their sort of efforts, and it's like there's a real human being on the other side of this, and they love what they do, and it's so easy for somebody to tear that down, and so I think there's not much you can do about it, really. You know, I think at the end of the day, people are going to be people, but so I think for me, that's why, at least with whatever I do, whether it be in my work or in day-to-day life, is I do try and promote positivity as much as I can and love. And, you know, we've had these conversations as well, is whilst there is a lot of negativity out there, even if it might be considered, some people throw around the word of like toxic positivity, but I'm like, nah, man, like any opportunity.
Wait. Sorry to interrupt you.
Before?
What is toxic positivity? I've never, this is,
really?
Okay,
You've never heard this before?
I've heard toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
I've even heard toxic femininity. I've never heard toxic positivity. What is that?
Look, I would say it's probably more applied to when people are overly positive about a situation when there might need to be logical decisions behind it. So as opposed, you know, I'll give you an example. Maybe I can imagine that somebody might say something's toxic positivity when, you know, their family member's about to pass away or something, and they're like, oh no, things are great, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, maybe it's a bit more delusion, I think, when they're sort of relating to toxic positivity. But anyway, I think, like I said, any opportunity I can get, I just want to throw love and compassion out there. So yeah, whilst all of this is happening, you know, all the keyboard warriors and all that, there's loads of conversations on that, and I just kind of tend to steer away from that.
But that's also, you know, looking at the glass half full, you know, that's
possibly, yeah,
kind of, I think, a healthy way to live your life.
It's the best.
A good way to live your life. You know, if every situation you look at the negatives, you look at the glass half empty, well, you know, it's no secret that you're gonna bring in that negativity into your life on a regular basis, and that's going to do some damage.
Definitely, yeah. And I think so many of the opportunities that I've had in my life have just simply been because I've been open to it, or because, you know, you make somebody feel a certain way when you're in their presence, and it kind of brings people together. So yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that my life would not be the way it is right now in a positive way without having that attitude. I think. Yeah, being optimistic and positive has wondrous effects on your life,
and that probably, you know, in a sense, you know, protects you from all this kind of negativity that happens online. Like I get your point.
Maybe through ignorance, maybe, yeah.
Well, in, ignorance or just not shining light on it, just not giving it the time of day.
Totally, 100%. Yeah, I mean, like you've got the news that loves to kind of sell papers or whatever the medium is right now through negativity, and so
Well, it's clicks right now, isn't it?
yeah. Thank you for updating me to the 21st century.
Hey man, two old guys, we can we can update each other.
Beautiful, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think we are also a victim of our own clicks on our algorithms with social media, because the more hate-filled stuff you click on, the more hate-filled stuff you get shown, and you kind of I'm not smart enough to know exactly how this works, but it does seem that you create your own algorithm. It's not an algorithm that's created for you necessarily. The more stuff you click on is the more stuff that you get shown. So if you're inclined to click on things that make you angry, they're going to show you more things that make you angry. Yeah. So you're going to be more angry all the time. But if you try to click on cat videos or dog videos, puppies, or even there's things you're into like cars, which I want to talk to you about actually, because I know you're a big kind of car nerd. Car nerd, but music or film or anything you might be like a hobby you might be into, well, it'll show you more of that stuff.
Yeah.
So you're kind of the master of your own destiny, depending on what you're shown.
But then once you're in it, you sort of get trapped in it, right? So it's kind of like it becomes your echo chamber. Absolutely.
And that's a problem too.
Yeah.
Then you're less exposed to something new, perhaps, or a new perspective. But before we kind of get too far away, I do want to talk about cars and stuff. Did you? I've been watching you on Instagram. You've got this amazing. Looks like a 60s muscle car.
Yeah.
Is it a Plymouth?
Yeah.
It is a Plymouth.
1969 Plymouth Roadrunner.
Jesus. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's probably the least practical car you could own in Sydney in this day and age, for sure.
Yeah, really, really fuel efficient, I'd imagine.
At least 36 litres per 100K.
Okay.
And that's without me putting my foot down. So it's probably up closer to 50 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. It's fun though.
It must be. I was going to say it must be fun.
It's very fun. Yeah.
Did
you
drive it
I didn't
here?
drive it today. No, I actually caught the DD, I'm going to say. But I was going to, and then I had a meeting this morning, and I think I just ran it around Marrickville where I live. And within 10 minutes, the temperature was already up to a point where I was not too comfortable, and I was sweating. And I just thought, I kind of want to be a little bit clean by the time I get here. I don't want to look like I've just stepped out of the sauna. So yeah.
No aircon in that thing, huh?
None. No. Yeah, and it's a black car.
Okay.
And with a big engine that's hot, it's constantly pumping hot air into the cabin. It's a sauna.
Great for winter.
Yeah, or night times as well.
Or night times.
Yeah, I mostly drive at night or in winter.
Yeah.
For that reason.
So how did you get into these kinds of vintage cars?
So my dad, yeah. So I mean, we've spoken about our parents in the past, but like I had an amazing upbringing. My mum is a preschool teacher, and my dad was a mechanic, and he used to race cars. And so growing up, I saw he had a car that he actually built that was in the garage, and so I'd sort of see him tinkering and working on that. And I was going to go into the automotive trade, like sort of mid-high school. I thought I was going to become a mechanic, and then I did work experience at Ferrari, and I was like, I love the cars, I hate the work.
Work experience at Ferrari?
Yeah. So there was a workshop in Sydney, and my dad knew a guy that worked there and said, hey, can my son do work experience here? So I did that, and loved the cars, but within a week, I just knew that it wasn't the job for me. So I swung from that to the arts world with influence from my brother, but yeah, I still held on to that passion for cars. So my dad by far is the main reason why. And I don't know, it's been a kind of nice way to like have a heart to heart with my dad in one way or another. And to be quite honest, he's got like a one-track mind. Like that's all he cares about his cars.
Does he have a collection, or does he have just a sort of one thing that he really loves at the moment?
No, I mean, like my dad, he used to be really into Hondas. So pretty much every single car that he's ever owned has been a Honda. He's obsessed with Hondas. So
yeah, right.
The family has 2 Hondas now. But personally, he's only got like, there was a father-son project that I purchased a few years ago, which is a 1969 MG midget. And he actually built some parts many years ago with the name Elder all over them. So we're going to put those parts in the car. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. So cars.
So Honda. So is he into like the whole kind of? I wonder if maybe it's a little bit too more recent for him, but like the JDM craze, like the Skylines and the Supras and stuff. Is he into that, or is that?
Nah, it's probably a little bit too modern for him. I mean, he's 79 now, so he's before a boomer. I think he's at the silent generation or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. He was born before World War II ended, so he's an old man.
Right.
So no, he's mostly carburetors. All that older stuff is what he's into. But I mean, anything with a Honda badge on it, he'll like.
Yeah, cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I used to be obsessed with American muscle cars, and I still think they're fucking amazing.
Drive, man.
Well, I know. Yeah. 67 Pontiac GTO was my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. They got a tough looking grill on those things.
Yeah. They're amazing. I test drove a 69 once, thinking that it had a Chevy small block in it. It was awesome. Like, it was a really cool moment. But I kind of realized when I test drove it, I'm like, maybe these are just a little. You might need to know a little bit too much about cars to actually have one of these to keep it running, and it was a bit of a wake up call, actually.
The best it always is. I've had friends that have wanted to buy old cars, and then I say, look, come for a drive, and as soon as they understand the commitment level, it's pretty scary. I would compare it to being in a throwing this word around again, but it's like a toxic relationship, really. I mean, you're in love with this thing, and you think it's in love with you, and it treats you well sometimes. But yeah, man, the amount of money you pour in these things it's scary.
They're expensive to buy, they're expensive to run, and then if you want to do anything major mods to them and do new paint jobs and new leathers inside, it's a nonstop, money pit.
Although I heard this really nice analogy. There's a guy that I met in the States who has the nicest. It's a 1970 Dodge Challenger. Named El Hemi, and he said that you're not the owner of this car, you're just the caretaker for a period of time.
That's nice.
Yeah, which I think is a really nice way to sort of look at things. It's so many people can relate to this, I think, as well, is when cars for me are more than just an inanimate object. It's this thing that you share your life with, and you have all these memories with. You might have previous partners, or you have, maybe you graduate from school, or you've got all these memories that are attached to this thing. And so when you say goodbye to it, it's in a sense you're kind of letting go of those memories in some way or another as well. Like, you still got the memories, but it's this physical representation of those memories.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm not in a position yet where I'm going to be purchasing a second car for fun, but when that happens, I've kind of come full circle with my appreciation for cars, and I'm back to feeling like I'm 16 years old. I've just watched Fast and the Furious, and I am obsessed with like Skylines and like 90s Supras.
Yes, dude.
I just keep looking at car sales all the time, just seeing what's out there.
Welcome to the sickness, man.
Oh, dude, it's fun.
Have you been on Facebook Marketplace?
Bro,
that is a drug if I've ever had one, man. Like, that is wild.
I scroll Marketplace more than I scroll Instagram. I'm looking at drums and like JDM cars, and that's it.
What would you have if it was going to be JDM?
Okay.
That's a big breath.
No, well, so the answer used to be 90s Supra 2JZ, like black, all blacked out.
Nice.
And I actually test drove one not too long ago because I saw one that was a reasonable price. It was fitted out as a turbo. Yes, it wasn't a 2JZ. It wasn't like it was an RZ or something.
Okay.
But it still had a turbo in it. It was really fun to drive.
Yeah. They're also, I don't know if you saw, but the cockpit, like the gauges are set out like a fighter jet.
Yes,
like
it's
aimed at you. It's like driver-centric, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Then something happened, I don't know, just through scrolling and looking at different cars. I love the R34 Skylines.
They've come up in value, man. They are big
so
dollars,
expensive.
Right? Yeah.
For a good one in good nick, over $100,000.
Yeah.
Easy.
Like a couple of $100,000 for a Nissan, man.
And speaking of like the cockpit, like the cool thing about the Supras is that everything is like a fighter jet and everything is pointed at you. You get into a Skyline, the external is, I think, one of the most beautiful JDM cars design-wise on the planet. I think they're just gorgeous. But you get inside, you're like, this is like my grandmother's car. This is like, it's like everything is really square. There's nothing kind of that screams sports car about it at all. It's got like cloth seats. And of course, you see ones where people have done insane mods to them, and they've done like, you know, sway dash, and they've put all these gauges, and then it looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
But God knows how much that would cost to set
Yeah.
up. But if you just get like a stock stand, it looks like this badass, like mean street Japanese racing car, and you get inside, you're like, I really feel like I'm in a $30,000 sedan. It is.
Well, that's what they were though. Like, you know, they were based off a basic sort of sedan, really. I mean, they made 2-door versions of them, but they're pretty basic. Yeah, they're pretty basic.
But yeah, so look, I'm keeping my ear to the ground, keeping my eyes peeled.
It's all right. I'll feed this. You know, I'm the opposite of AA. You know what I mean? Like, I will feed this addiction.
You're like a car pusher.
Yeah, it's like join us.
I also test drove one of the new Supras as well, just
How
out
was
of
that?
interest. Fun. I've since done
They're a
quite
BMW though.
It's
right?
exactly. It's a BMW. Which I don't know if that really would bother me. I mean, they're amazingly fun to drive. It's
How did it? Like, what was the comparison between the old one and the new one?
like
Night
night and day. Like no different. Like at least was with the downside of the new Supra, and I'm talking with, you know, not very much expertise here, but the downside with the newer Supra was like this could be almost any German sports car. It could be a BMW, it could be a Porsche. Like it's fast, it's fun, it's got all the bells and whistles, it's got lots of great technology inside, and it looks cool and it makes a cool sound, but it could be almost anything. At least with like a 90s Supra, you're like, this is what
It's
this
iconic,
is. It's
right?
iconic, and it is
Yeah.
what it's. You would never get into a BMW and confuse the two.
No.
So I don't know.
I'll feed it, man. I'll keep feeding it.
Look, yeah, please do. If you find something interesting, send it my way. As I said, I'm not making a purchase anytime soon. But there'll be a day. There'll be a
You're
day.
just too busy focusing on your Muay Thai, man.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, you know.
Because was it the last guest that was the trainer, or
Yeah, my coach, Mossy,
Yeah.
4-time world Muay Thai champion.
that's crazy.
Yeah, he's legit.
That's crazy.
He's super legit. He's he's actually just become a pretty decent friend. Actually, I've been training with him for about a year. I just went to his new gym opening on the weekend, and then afterwards we went and saw Pearl Jam together, which was cool. He came
How
with
was
me and
that?
some friends. It was cool, man. It was really cool. I sort of was apprehensive to go at first. Like a friend of mine invited me. He had some tickets, and he's
Is
like,
that the?
"That's the one." That's it.
Yeah, sick.
They were just, and I mean this with no disrespect at all, but they were just like old men playing guitars through loud amps.
Nice.
And in I mean that in like the best possible way. It was just
Nice.
awesome.
Just analog.
Analog.
Yeah.
Analog as fuck.
Yeah.
That was, and they still had loads of energy. They played great. Matt Cameron is such an amazing drummer, and I'd never seen him play live. Obviously he did a lot of stuff with Soundgarden and with Pearl Jam, and he's such a solid drummer.
Is he doing better than Lars?
He's doing a lot better than Lars. I think Lars got a bit too obsessed with red wine and spending lots of money on art.
I mean, can you blame him though? I mean, if I was in Metallica, I'd probably be, you know, buying a lot of red wine and art as well.
I think so too. No, he made his choice. It was clear. I think he just decided to stop practicing. You know, that's an interesting thing though. I still have a soft spot in my heart for Lars. Everybody like rags on him all the time, and there are so many examples.
What is it?
Well, I think in Metallica's heyday in the 80s and even to some degree the 90s, I think he was very good. I think there were some of the drum parts he came up with, because you got to remember, it's not just the technical ability, it's like the creativity as well. And I think he, a lot of his drum parts are iconic.
What is it like? Is it one?
Yeah.
That's great, dude.
And that's great.
Yeah.
He can't play it anymore.
Really?
Not even close.
Yeah, man.
Not even close.
They can afford like programmed drums, surely. You know.
Well, he can. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem, and that's sad when you know, because there are drummers who are from that generation who can still play like that, you know, because they kept up their chops, they kept practicing. I have seen different things online where they have it played through a backing track and he doesn't even actually hit the left pedal. He's just
What?
playing
You've
with
actually
the right
seen
pedal.
that? Do they do that?
Well, there's someone, you can find it on YouTube. There's someone who got a footage, got some footage of Lars just behind the kit, and he's not even touching the left pedal. He's just playing the right.
No.
So
Man, that would have been an ego hit for him the day that they came up and were like, "Hey," Mr. Hetfield was like, "Hey, Lars, I think it's time, man." Like,
it's funny that if you can watch like all of his mistakes back to back on these YouTube videos, and it's that's
the
another thing.
internet is cruel, man.
But that's another thing that's it's not maybe not so fair. It's like, well, over how many years is this, and over how many shows is this, and everybody has off nights.
How long's the video? Like 4 hours long or something?
Yeah, look, it's too long. It's definitely too long.
Shit.
But no, Matt Cameron is certainly a cut above Lars Ulrich. I'm sorry, Lars, if you're listening.
I think he's just watching right now, just seething. Yeah.
So I don't think I'm at a stage yet where people like Lars Ulrich are tuning in, but I still do have a soft spot for him because I do think a lot of his drumming was iconic back in the day, and
they paved the way for so many bands, right?
100%, and inspirational, and he's just not. He's kind of doesn't have it anymore because of old age, lack of interest, other better things to do with his time and money. I understand. I think a lot of people would do similar things if they were in that position.
What would you be doing if you were in that position? Like, what's the max volume? What's like volume 11 version of you?
Well, look, I definitely think that
pretty similar to what you are now. I
think pretty similar to now.
Yeah.
I do think that if you are selling tickets to a show, and I don't know what a Metallica ticket costs these days, but I'm sure it's not cheap. You have a responsibility to your fans and to the people who are paying you lots of money to come and see you play. You should be able to play your instrument. I think that's shouldn't even have to be said.
But how chaotic would you be if you were in that Metallica position?
But the weird thing is, man, you watch like Hetfield, and he's in the exact same position financially, in terms of his success and his admiration, and he still shreds. Yeah, he's absolutely still shredding. So I don't know. Maybe because drums are more physical and they require maybe more attention. I don't know. Well,
drummers are almost always the first people to go from a band like that, though, right? Like, I mean, I feel, what was it, Black Sabbath? I mean, they're definitely, up until their recent departure of closure. Yeah. Yeah, like I'm pretty sure I saw them on their last tour. I was actually in Albuquerque and saw them on their last tour, and I can't imagine that many of them, maybe it was the guitarist in Aussie or something like that.
Who was the drummer? Was it Tommy?
I don't know, he looked really young, though. Definitely didn't look like...
Tommy, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Clefutus, something like that.
Dude, you got an encyclopedia of drummers in your head, hey?
Did he have like a bandana and like sort of long curly hair?
I was too distracted by the drunken people next to me, like...
Fair enough. Well, anyway, I know Tommy, I can't pronounce his last name, but he... I know he was the Sabbath drummer for a very, very long time. Maybe they had somebody else.
Even their last albums were great, hey?
Yeah.
Like, just to the end, creating bangers, man. That is so good.
Even Ozzy, like, had some of his just solo albums. I heard some of the, maybe not the whole album, but like some of the tracks, I was like, man, this is still fucking good.
I wonder, do you reckon he's writing any of that? Like,
he must have some hand. You reckon? Maybe not the
like 3 brain cells he's got left. Just like... It's just a musical genius on that part of the brain, but yeah.
Well, maybe that part of the brain is so
muscle memory, right?
Yeah, like, maybe
the neural pathways are just strong in that part.
Maybe. Look, I don't know. I mean, it's. I think Ozzy can now take a rest.
Yeah,
regardless.
He's done well.
Yeah,
he's done well. Well, don't they coin Black Sabbath as being the first metal band to come
Absolutely.
out?
Yeah.
So sick.
100%. 60s.
Yeah.
Late 60s.
What is it? It's like the minor tone, right? Like really kind of... Or there was like some note that made it iconic.
Okay, now you're talking... I'm a drummer, dude. Now you're talking notes.
I'm not a musician, man. I did screamy voice. I wasn't playing any instruments.
Let me see what the first... I just want to Google this. When was the first Black Sabbath album released? Because I don't want to get this wrong.
Was it Paranoid was on the first album, wasn't it?
1970. I thought it was late 60s. It's early 70s.
Is it 70?
On Friday the 13th.
No, that's so good.
Wow.
Just keeping it evil from day one. Hey?
Maybe that's why the original metal band, they released their first album on Friday the 13th.
That's wild.
That's cool.
Good setup.
Yeah. Well, back to you. I want to know what's going on in your life professionally now. Because I know you've done the Ed Sheeran thing. I know all the bands you've worked with, which has all been, the list is I wouldn't say endless, but it feels endless. You've done so many projects, worked with so many different bands. What's in the future? What's coming up?
So I just actually on the weekend when you were watching, I was doing a launch for a second business that I got. So I got House Party, which is the production company. We've done music videos, commercials, all that stuff. But for the last maybe like 6 to 12 months, I've been focusing quite a bit on equipment rental. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but I feel like there's an opportunity to have an effect on the local film industry culture. Mm-hmm. So spending all my money on equipment and just getting it out there and putting it in the hands of creatives. So yeah, that's been cool. Did the launch, had a bunch of people come down to Studio Killer, which is a shout out to Adam. He hooked us up on the weekend, gave us a place to sort of bring all the equipment out and show some people. So yeah, that's kind of me for the last year. But next year, I feel like I'm pretty hungry to do some more weird shit. Like I've come off the back end of a lot of producing. For people that don't know what producing is in the video world, that's more like project management as opposed to like directing or shooting. Mm-hmm. So I'm very hungry creatively. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think the next year is going to be a nice one on that front, is just getting out on the tools more and just doing some more artistic projects. So. And
when you are working on a project, do you like to get your hands on the cameras, or are you more kind of directing, and what's your favorite element of actually being on a project?
A bit of everything. Hey, it's kind of like the reason why I don't do long form is because I like that diversity. So while some people, and it means that maybe I'm a master of none, there's that saying, but
yeah. But
I would say different things. So directing is good, shooting, so DOP, cinematography, gaffing, so lighting, love lighting. I mean, I love being in a space that has a good vibe to it. So
yeah,
a bit of everything, honestly. But I think over the next year, I would love to focus a bit more on shooting and directing. So yeah, that's me.
Nice, man. I do want to actually ask you this question. So back to the music video world.
Yes.
Obviously, being a musician myself, and a lot of my peers and colleagues being musicians too, bands that are doing better and better keep putting out more and more music videos to put on YouTube and to promote their stuff, and it's still a very relevant tool for promotion. But what's your opinion on the relevance of a music video in a post MTV world?
Totally. Well, I mean, I started my career in music videos kind of post MTV. I think the bottom line is that music is now no longer just for the ears, in the sense that, social media, everyone's on their phones, and how are people coming into music? Like, how are they finding new artists? And so the visual medium is now just as important, in my opinion, as the sound when it comes to like finding new artists. So apparently I think YouTube is one of the highest viewed websites in the world.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And so I think that there's definitely still relevance as to like the format that it has been traditionally with music videos. I think that, everything's going to progress over time. I'm not going to be sitting in my horse and cart and be like, no, cars are not the way to go. I mean, it's definitely changing. And I think it's also attention spans are changing. We've got something that I would be quite happy to watch over 4 or 5 minutes. Somebody of the next generation might be like, okay, I'm bored. Let's watch the next thing. So yeah, it's definitely different now as opposed to when I started my career. And I guess when, MTV was a thing back in the 80s and early 90s, how relevant it is to artists these days. I think that the traditional format of music videos is definitely different. I don't know if it's from my experience, I think it's shorter clips, more of them, there's this obsession of just consumption of media, but like a lot of things. And it's hard to see when artists pump so much money into a music video and then it gets like one opportunity for the audience to appreciate it, and then maybe it doesn't kick off, or the promo behind it wasn't good enough, or something like that, and then that's a big investment for an artist to put into something. So there's definitely a lot of merit in spreading out the investment a little bit, and I think some people are doing 10-second, 15-second reels, and like cutting up their songs, and I think there's definitely merit in doing it that way as well. So
and going viral on TikTok and stuff like that. I mean, that's something I really don't know a lot about.
To be fair, I think not many of us do. I think the whole algorithm and what it takes. There's a lot of people out there that are killing it in the TikTok game and in that sort of viral world. But as far as how that applies to artists, I mean, how often do you see people putting up videos like, oh man, I got to do social media now, I just want to play music? It's an unfortunate reality that we as musicians have to just contend with now, because gone are the days when you could just write a really good song or album and have somebody else pick it up and do everything else for you. That doesn't exist anymore. Back in the day, if you would sign a record contract, that was it. You were famous. Like you had made it, because the machine that you had just signed into was going to put you in front of all the people, perpetuate your image, I suppose, to the world. Whereas now, you get bands signing contracts, whether it's management or distribution contracts, and it doesn't mean much, really. I mean, it's a bit of help for sure, but you got to grow your. Labels won't even look at you until you're a certain size. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's not like the undiscovered artist will now be like catapult into the stratosphere because you got picked up. It's like you already have to be killing it, lots of fans, lots of content, already doing really well, and then a label will jump on board. Yeah,
it's interesting how, I mean, it must be harder for labels now as well, because I know a lot of people that have just gone to sort of self-management because they feel like a big part of the reason why they would have gone to a label in the past was for all of that, being a full service agency effectively. Whereas now social media has that power to blow people up, and they can just be self-managed.
And you can do it yourself. And I mean, like, we're friends with, Emmy and the guys from Red Hook, and they've been self-managed, well, not self-managed, but they've been without a label for a very, very long time. And I'm not 100% sure, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think they might have signed a label recently. They might have signed something. Not exactly sure what, but yeah, for the longest time, they've been under their own sort of management, so to speak.
It's almost like I think distribution is probably one of the main reasons why people still want to be attached to a label these days.
Sure.
It's hard to make it through all of those hoops and hurdles and stuff if you've never done it before. So obviously the label has so much experience in that sense. But yeah, as far as the exposure side of things, social media has taken a big chunk of that for sure.
And what I find really interesting is, like, with this TikTok thing, I was having a conversation with somebody recently about a certain radio station that I won't name, but
you got beef, bro? They're beefing with you?
No beef. I just don't want to be sued. But there is this kind of push with a lot of radio stations these days, where they're letting what is popular on TikTok dictate to them what they're going to play.
Yeah, okay.
Because songs will pop off from a TikTok reel or something that goes viral that has a song attached to it, and then that becomes a really popular song sort of by this weird roundabout way. And then the radio stations pay attention to that, and they go, oh, that's a popular song now because of this reel, this fad that people are doing, this dance or whatever it is. Now it's a big artist, let's put that on our radio station. It seems to be backwards. Like radio used to be the tastemakers, used to be the providers of artists, new artists, what's cool, and now it's kind of they're listening to another media form and dictating their output based on a social media platform that's sort of, at least at its core, has nothing to do with music.
What are your sort of thoughts on the tastemakers now? Like, who do you think is the tastemaker?
I don't know who they are. I think I just find it strange. That's all. I don't want to sound, like going back to the conversation we were having before, I don't want to sound too out of touch, but I just find I suppose the way the industry used to be set up, which was, record labels, radio, even television programs like MTV, interviews, that kind of thing. This would be how you'd often find out about new artists. Now it seems to be more from the bottom up, I guess. It's less corporate. There's less of a hierarchy, kind of top down type thing. Like, listen to this band; these guys, are the next thing. I don't know. I think it's probably a bit. I'm fumbling my way through this because I'm not actually 100% sure how I feel about it. I'm really not. I really don't know. And I'm a bit out of touch actually now because I'm not in a band at the moment, and
you're still playing though, right?
I'm still playing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely still playing, but I'm
What sort of music are you playing these days?
still doing the kind of the metal stuff.
Heck yeah. You know how I got onto recently as a part, like from the 75 Hard? Go Jera, man.
Oh, stop.
Dude, so good.
One of the best metal bands going around today, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And when did you see, on the Olympics? So that was such a
That
curveball, man.
Amazing. As soon as I saw it, I was like, well, it makes sense because they're French and it's the Paris Olympics. And I'm like, but
like on a castle fire, like wild.
Wild, but also I wonder how many people watch that who are into just the Olympics, not even into music, let alone metal. And they see something like that and they're like, what the fuck is this?
I wonder if anyone actually got into it. Like, I can imagine some of the older generation people just being like, wow, this is interesting.
I wonder if that moment actually created some new metal fans.
Hopefully, surely.
It was so impressive.
It's almost like a weird mix of sort of fantasy, like, the whole, I don't know, with the castles and the history of it all. Like,
and was it, oh God, now I'm really showing my lack of French history.
Yours will be better than mine because I know nothing about France. So
no, what was her name who got beheaded? Oh God.
You've got this, bro.
No, I don't. I don't have this.
Just make up a name.
It'll
be better if you make
Marie Antoinette.
Perfect.
Is that it?
Let's run with that.
Let's go with that. I don't even want to Google it. Marie Antoinette, who was beheaded or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had that as an image. She had a woman like holding her own head and like doing some kind of operatic background vocals. Yeah. But then of course, going back to the conversation about kind of keyboard warriors and trolls on the internet, people were saying how it was a satanic expose or something, and it's like, guys, it's and they Gojira actually came out and publicly said, like, it's nothing to do with Satanism. We're a metal band and we were showcasing French history.
Yeah.
Right. And this was, if it was Marie Antoinette, and I hope I'm not wrong about that, but she was beheaded, and this is just a moment in French history. We wanted to showcase this, and it was fire, and we're playing guitars, and I don't know what to tell you. It's not Satan. We're not Satanists, guys. Relax.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the metal scene and metal bands have been depicted in the past with their relationship to Satanism and religion and that. I think it was Slayer. Wasn't the singer of Slayer like Catholic?
He's Catholic.
Yeah,
he's Catholic. Yeah,
which is wild. They're seen as one of the most satanic bands ever, and
I don't know. I sort of think that with a lot of metal bands, there's like a tongue-in-cheek Satanism thing that happens, but it is tongue-in-cheek for the most part, unless it's obviously like a Norwegian black metal band.
Like Mayhem, right?
Yeah. Or Dimmu Borgir or one of those.
Yeah.
But then it's, okay, well, maybe that is satanic, but I think I just sort of think because heavy metal was sort of not even anti-religion, but it was a bit sort of wild and
like a bit of anti-establishment,
maybe
like
a bit anti-establishment
challenging ideas.
Yeah, and if the established norm was Christianity, then maybe they were just kind of pushing against that, and also living in a fantasy world with the artwork on albums and stuff. I just think it was just sort of having a bit of fun with it more than being seriously like devil worshipping.
Like when you're in a metal band, you went devil worshipping.
Yeah. Why not?
I remember just writing wild lyrics about stuff that I have no idea about. We're talking about the Armageddon and death and stuff, all those fun themes.
Well, that's right. I think it's just being a bit silly and being a bit fun, having a bit of fun with
it's
it.
Theater, right?
Theater. It's exactly what it is. Do you have was working with Die Art Is Murder probably the darkest music you've explored as a videographer, as an addition to a piece of art?
Probably, yeah. I think I mean, a band like that already has their reputation that is across the board of their entire body of work, you know. So it's not something that you can kind of bring in fairies and like, I mean, you might be able to, but yeah, I think as far as subject matter, yeah, they were definitely on the darker end of the scale for sure. But it's kind of fun, you know. I mean, I remember I worked in a video with Thomas Savage, who was an old videographer of theirs, and we did a video that was inspired by 90s action films that I grew up with. You know, we were coming up with the concept, and I had access to an abandoned abattoir, and so
oh my god,
wild location.
Yeah,
shot many videos there actually, and I don't know why Thomas Savage was like, "Hey, I want to do something." Sort of the juxtaposition between hot and cold, and as soon as I thought about cold, the abattoir had a cool room, and so you think about the Predator 2 scene where they go through the sort of the storage cool room, and so yeah, we were just adapting these ideas to the location. So yeah, definitely dark elements in the videos for sure, but it's fun, you know, doing something different. Like on my daily commute to work, I'm not going to be thinking about that stuff, but it's nice to kind of just enter a world of like not fantasy, but just something that's left of center, and it doesn't have to be who you are. As you know, we were talking before about the Slayer singer. He doesn't live this in his day-to-day life, but it's just like why we watch music. Why we watch movies.
Yeah,
you know, it's like escapism in a way.
And horror movies too. I mean, like especially leaning into sort of what you're saying. You know, it's. I think we like to be scared. Yeah. Quite frankly, you know, same reason you go on a roller coaster, same reason, you know, we do lots of things. We like to kind of push the boundaries and see what we can kind of, you know, expose ourselves to. And if you're on the creative side of that, well, that's kind of like that, but the possibilities are endless. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I remember we did with Wolf Creek, we did a music video with an actor friend of mine, Mark Furs. We had to just showcase this scenario where he was like tied to a chair and he'd clearly been kidnapped, and it was a bit more like psychotic, and we wanted to make it really like he was really kind of losing his mind, and coming up with ways to explore that was fun. Like it's just fun. I don't know why. It's we were trying to think of how can we make this scarier, how can we make it darker, how can we make it weirder. And yeah, there's something enticing about that. I don't know what it is.
It's almost like this idea of not role play, but you're sort of placing yourself into the mind of somebody that you aren't. And so it's this exciting frontier where you can explore ideas without actually doing it in real life, you know.
That's a really good, that's cut and print, that's it.
Done.
Man, well look, I mean, on that note, I think we've done.
That's life, my friend. Yeah, dude, thank you very much for the coffee, for the
don't be silly. Thanks for coming in and thanks for helping. People might not know, but the cameras need a little bit of a tweak, and having a guest
hopefully it turns out
experienced.
Okay. I mean,
you gave me a little bit of pointers, so I appreciate that.
It's all right. I showed you the zebras, you know, those lines moving across the screen, which they won't see, but the cameras showed it.
Well, look, I hope 2025 brings you more, intense projects.
Thanks,
and we get to see more weird, dark, possibly.
Love it.
Chris Elder music videos.
Love it. Perfect. Yeah, dude.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, dog.
Appreciate you.